Okay, so hi Don, good afternoon. And today we have a number of additional topics that we want to chat about. And we're going to start with one of the topics that's probably one of the most important topics, I would say, across all of marketing, but certainly within financial services marketing, and that is seminar selling. And so, first, we're going to talk a little bit about what is seminar selling and what's the goal that we're trying to accomplish with it. We'll talk a little bit about how should a good seminar be structured, maybe how long the presentation should be, and more importantly, how do you make the presentation fascinating, motivating, and engaging for participants so that you not only keep their attention, but you get them wanting to learn more. And finally, we'll end the seminar section on what are some attention grabbing names and subjects that you could potentially use if you're marketing your own financial seminars.
Mhm.
So, Don, maybe we could just talk about, from your perspective, what would you say is the goal of seminar selling, and what are you trying to accomplish when you're advising marketing folks and financial planners and insurance people on financial seminars?
Well, that's a specialized topic, financial seminars. Scott Magnacca, and myself, Dr. Donald Moyne, we've done a lot of work in this area. It's very exciting. It's very powerful. Um, the reason you want to do it, folks, is let's look at the economics, first of all. I like to think of it in terms of like selling bananas. You don't want to sell a banana one by one, because it's going to take you forever. You're not going to make much money. You're not going to reach many people that need bananas. You want to sell them in bunches. And it's the same way in selling people. Now, you can do webinars, which Scott and I are also going to share some great webinar ideas with you. We're doing a webinar here, of course. But there's, I sense this, Scott, and Scott, I think you are sensing this also. We're coming out of coronavirus, finally. We're getting up near herd immunity. The world is opening up. We have a ways to go. But I have clients who have not done seminars for 18 months. They're one of my partners, Eric Lawfom. He's doing a 2-day program this weekend. Has a lot of people at that program. I had dinner last night. I was telling Scott before our recording session today, one of my clients flew in from the East Coast and we had a great dinner in Redondo Beach, California. And he's one of the few people who's been doing seminars during the entire pandemic. And he had a record-breaking year because no one else was doing them. But now folks are going back. They're rediscovering the power of seminars, the economics of seminars. And what we're finding, what we're rediscovering is, while it's great to do webinars, they have a lot of advantages, much less expensive. You can reach a lot of people in many different time zones. There's a different market. There are people who are not going to get, there are people who are zoomed out. Let's face it. There are people who, that the phrase, it's probably in the Webster's dictionary or the Oxford English dictionary by now, zoomed out. I'm zoomed out on meetings. I'm having people who I normally do Zoom meetings with. Are you having this experience? They're requesting phone calls.
Right.
They're saying, I just can't stand to look at another set of eyeballs again for another hour. Let's just talk on the phone. It's much easier for me. I'm happy to do it. So folks, you want to have an exciting topic. You want to know your audience. Well, we're going to talk about a whole bunch of specifics. We're going to give you a lot of actionable, powerful ideas. But you want to do it also because a lot of your competitors are still not doing it. It's still rare. Write this down if you're in your notes. If you're taking notes, people like to be with people. People like to be with people. When I travel to different countries, I remember when I first went to Japan, you hear Japan's very crowded. It has all these big cities. People are packed together. When you fly over Japan, it's amazing. You look down in the airplane and there's tremendous amounts of green mountains, rivers, and you have the big cities, but the people cluster to the big cities. And that's true for every country. You fly over the United States, most of it's empty. There's very few people there. People want to be with people, and that means live seminars. People like to be with others. They like to have meals with them, to break bread with them. It's something we've been doing for millennia, since the time people got together in caves and around campfires. So you're tapping into that deep primal need that people have.
I was just going to say, Don, your commentary there was really making me think that's absolutely true. That right now, probably more so than any point in the last 5 or 10 years, people want that personal connection and that human connection with people. And I just have one example to share with folks. And this was back from my time at Fidelity Investments. And we
Mhm.
were doing income planning seminars. Income planning was brand new at that point, and I was
Mhm.
in charge of the marketing for the branches at Fidelity for income planning. And so we came up with this seminar, and we mailed out beautiful, almost wedding type invitations to people. We held the live seminars in the branches across the country. We had them hosted with our regional consultants, and we really tried to do it first class. It didn't cost us a ton of money, but we had to rent the hotel rooms, we had to organize it, we had to send out the invitation. So there was some expense, but the takeaway of it was that people who had Fidelity had, I won't say taken for granted, but they had been Fidelity customers for a long period of time.
Mhm.
They'd always been invited to marketing events. They had never really been invited to strictly educational events.
Mhm.
And so these income planning seminars were educational, and people got to go to their local area, hotel or location near the branch, and they would actually get to know other Fidelity participants and customers. They would actually be around other people that were just like them who were transitioning to retired or already retired. And there was a tremendous amount of camaraderie. And
Mhm.
also, a lot of the same type of questions were being asked about income planning and the income planning process.
Mhm.
And the takeaway from that, I won't bore everybody with the details, but within the first year of doing those seminars, Fidelity took in over $1 billion of new net assets from those retirement income planning seminars. And so I can assure you that the cost was dwarfed dramatically by the amount of revenue that was taken in for the retirement income planning seminars. So live seminars absolutely do work. The big joke in the financial services business, though, is don't make the food too good because people will
Mhm.
just show up for the food. But
Yep.
again, if you're offering something of value that's compelling and the information is engaging and it's timely, yeah, of course they'll come for the food, but they're going to come for the information and the help that you offer. And
Mhm.
so I would encourage everybody to consider live seminars, but I'll also give you one argument for web-based seminars. Even though, as Dr. Moyne said, people are totally zoomed out, and many of them are. There was another experience that I had at Edelman Financial Engines when I was in charge of their live events business. We
Mhm.
would basically be doing webinars for participants. And one particular insurance company, I remember we did 6 webinars over a 2-day period. We sent out, I'm going to throw a few numbers at you. We sent out 3,500 emails, got about 1,400 attendees. So about half the people who we emailed actually attended, which was remarkable.
Mhm.
About 600 people actually did the surveys after the seminar, which is fantastic. But here's the most important thing. Out of the people who attended, about 10% of them enrolled in managed accounts, and that was a service that we were offering at that time. $18 million of assets was gathered, averaging about $126,000 per participant. So if you take that amount of money, assets under management, and you multiply it by, let's say, 0.5%, that comes out to about $90,000 a year. And just from those 2 days or 6 seminars, we generated about $90,000 of recurring revenue each and every year for the company. And that was only 2 days. So imagine if you were doing something like that once a month or even
Mhm.
twice a month.
Mhm.
So I guess the message here is if you can do live or in person or live or webinar type presentations, if you have
Mhm.
the right type of topics that are compelling and interesting, if you
Mhm.
deliver it with enthusiasm and passion,
Mhm.
and really create a lot of interest on the part of the participant, you can drive a tremendous amount of activity. And then, of course, what you do with the activity is up to you, but
Mhm.
ultimately it should drive a great amount of revenue. So let me pass it back to you.
Those are great examples, great case studies. I love sharing case studies. That's the way they teach at the Harvard Business School. I hope some of the folks around the world who are watching this are taking notes on this, because this is, folks, this is how you learn. This is how you get inspired to take action. We don't want you to just listen to these ideas and say, hey, those are great ideas, but we want to hear success stories from you. One of my clients in Florida, you talk about the economics of doing seminars. When he got what I call the seminar bug, he was he saw the power of seminar marketing. He started to do a seminar. His goal was to do at least one seminar a day. And he had some days where he did two seminars a day. And then occasionally on the weekend, he would literally do, this is in Florida, where they have a huge number of retirees. They call them the snowbirds. They come down in the winter, they migrate down from where Scott is up there in Boston and New York and Chicago, and they go to Florida and the other parts of the Southeast. And the financial planners are the beneficiaries. But on Saturday, especially, he had a number of Saturdays where he did a breakfast seminar, he did a lunch seminar, and he did a dinner seminar. At one point, my client's food budget to feed these people was over $100,000 a month. And we did an interesting little study. We figured out how much is the state of Florida spending to feed seniors in Florida. And we figured out that my client was spending more money feeding seniors than the entire state government of Florida. So
Wow.
my client felt pretty happy about that. And his business, we moved his business from being a $1 million a year business, which is very successful for someone in the insurance field. He was not a certified financial planner. Scott and I work with a lot of CFPs, a lot of registered investment advisors. I've worked with some hedge fund managers, but he was a specialist in insurance products, an annuity expert, life insurance expert. His best year, he brought in $10 million in commission income. Now he had 6 or 7 agents on his staff. He generously shared that with him. He had 3 or 4 secretaries. He had, of course, his $1.2 million food budget that year. Because one of the things we discovered is, folks, I want to give you some practical tips here. Scott and I are truth tellers. You can't go to an El Cheapo restaurant and attract high net worth people. You're not going to be able to attract high net worth people by offering them a $10 piece of rubber chicken or a $12 rubber steak. You have to go to a little bit nicer restaurant. Now, in the case of my client, when he was really successful, we were doing dinner seminars at Ruth Chris Steakhouse. We did a number of programs at the Ritz-Carlton where it was $75 a plate. But we were so confident in the business model. And one of the things you can do in your ads, we should talk a little bit about the ads, is you can have restrictions. You don't have to allow everyone in. This is not a social service, ladies and gentlemen. And so we said, this is for people with portfolios of $500,000 or more. Now, did we check? No. But if someone doesn't have 2 nickels to rub together, they're probably not going to feel very comfortable going to the Ritz-Carlton or Ruth Chris Steakhouse. And they see that, their car's not going to fit in there. They're just going to feel like a fish out of water. So by and large, we attracted a very high net worth audience. And the other thing you have to know, if you're taking notes, write this down, is you can get mailing list very inexpensively. One of my clients is doing this right now, of people who live in high net worth neighborhoods. You can buy a list of people, or rent a list of people that have houses valued at over X number of dollars. In her case, she started off with people who have a house value of over $750,000. You can buy zip codes of people based on the estimated family income. What the family income is. Maybe it's 200,000, maybe it's 150,000. And these list, folks, are inexpensive. You might pay for 1,000 names, you might pay $150. If you had to hand assemble this, walk around on doors, interview people, it would take forever. It'd just be impossible. And nowadays, you can just go to the list merchants and buy these lists, develop a mailing piece. You go to a company, they slap the labels on, or they print the name and address on there. The companies do everything. And for about $1 per mailing piece or so, you can mail out. Normally, what I tell people is to mail out, this is something else you can write down in terms of the numbers, mail out about 5,000 to 10,000 pieces if you want to get about 50 people at a program, and you're going to have a few late minute cancellations, a few no-shows. If you're aiming for a smaller group, you can do a little bit of a smaller mailing, but you want to basically saturate that high net worth neighborhood or your target neighborhood. It's fine to go after the middle class. They deserve to be helped also. They deserve services also. So those are a few useful tips. And one final set of golden nuggets I want to share with you, and then turn it over to Scott for some more of his insights and observations about seminar selling, is, folks, you can sell anything in a seminar. We've been talking about financial services, insurance products, but I have had clients, I've written about them in some of my books. We sold giant wind turbines. Wind is green energy. And I worked for a company called Zond, Z-O-N-D, that built one of the first gigantic wind turbine projects here in California. They commissioned wind studies up and down the state and found that one of the windiest areas is where the wind blows through the Tehachapi Mountains. And we hired engineers. The company hired engineers, and we brought in these gigantic wind turbines made in Denmark. At that time, no company in the United States made 180-foot tall wind turbines that could capture all this energy. We sold them for about $180,000 each, and there was an $80,000 $90,000 tax credit, 50% tax credit. So if you had a $90,000 tax bill you owed Uncle Sam, if you bought one of these wind turbines, you could erase 100% of your tax bill. Your tax bill of $90,000 went to zero. And plus, the wind turbines would generate on average about $21,000 to $25,000 per year in passive income, because we had contracts with Southern California Edison to buy the energy. They were required to buy clean energy, a certain percentage of clean energy. So I wrote this presentation up. It was irresistible. People, they thought, oh yeah, I'm going to a nice dinner seminar. I'm going to hear about wind turbines, possible investment opportunity. They had no idea that they would go home. Some people actually right there at the program made the initial commitment. Yes, I want to be on the reserve list. We didn't require them to pay up front, but we would offer them a free trip up to the Tehachapi Mountains to see these. And once they saw them in action, twirling, it's very dramatic. It's just, you feel the power of the wind. So you can sell giant wind turbines. I had another client, we sold bare land in another state. Now, here's where we actually sold them. This was a one-time close. People would go to a weekend seminar on how to invest in real estate. My client had purchased a bunch of land they were building an entryway from Mexico to the United States. This was in the early 90s. From Mexico to the United States, they were opening up one of these gigantic centers of entry, and a whole bunch of cargo trucks were going to be coming through, bringing cargo from Mexico to the United States and vice versa. Cargo from the US would be traveling to Mexico. And the whole area was undeveloped, but there were plans to build gas stations there. And, we knew it was going to be a little boom town, and we owned a lot of the land. My client was buying the land for $5,000 a parcel. We were selling at the seminar for $15,000. There was a big story in USA Today about the next big border boom town. It was about our town in New Mexico. And we had people who went home and they had to explain this to their husband or their wife, how they went to a seminar and they just bought a $15,000 piece of dirt in another state that they had never seen. And that's the power of seminar marketing. And as it turned out, I'm kicking myself. I didn't buy any myself, because that was a great investment. But it's just one of those things in life. You can't get all the great opportunities. So folks, I want to encourage you to use your imagination. My client sold $100 million in annuities and insurance. He got that business through clients he met. He had the initial presentation in live seminars. And one final tip here is, you don't have to necessarily have a big meal. This is something took me years to figure out. We found that a sweet spot for doing seminars was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's after lunchtime, it's before dinner time, and especially for people who are just retired or just about to retire, we would have these seminars, and they would either take an hour off work if they were working, or if they're retired, they can just go to the program. And you know what we would serve? We would serve monster cookies. We would advertise it: monster cookies, coffee, tea, and drinks. So they would go in there, they would have their choice of a giant gourmet chocolate chip cookie. Those cost us about $3 each. We would tell people, you got to make sure you eat the cookies, folks. We're paying $3 each for them. And then they would have coffee or tea or a soft drink. And that was enough to get them through, a 1 hour seminar, and to be amped up on sugar and caffeine, to be excited. And we didn't have to have, a big expensive meal, because, by the way, if you serve a meal, this is so important. You talk first, you serve the meal afterwards. A classic rookie mistake is you serve the food and then you start talking. Folks, don't compete with food. Food will win every damn time. And you're going to have clanging forks and knives and people talking to the waiter. My piece of chocolate cake was too small. Can you bring me a bigger piece of cake? Or, I didn't want this. So you do your dramatic talk, you sign them up. Folks, this is an opportunity to come to my office, meet with me, have a free, no obligation meeting with me, a certified financial planner, with our retirement income planners. Bring your portfolio. We'll analyze it free of charge. And you're going to get a lot of people signing up after you do this great presentation. And as soon as you sign up, folks, we're going to serve you a great dinner. So it's like cause and effect.
Yeah, that's fantastic insights. I hope people have been taking notes on what Don is saying there. And I'll just add a little color to it as well. When we were at Fidelity, surprisingly, Don was mentioning about targeting the high net worth clients and doing it at the Ritz-Carlton or the Ruth Chris Steakhouse, which absolutely is fantastic. It's a self-sorting mechanism, so only the right type of people are going to attend. When we were at Fidelity, we were actually cheap and we didn't have enough of a budget. So we didn't go, we went to kind of the mid tier and we offered people a decent meal. But at the beginning, we did make the rookie mistake, and we had the meal and then we had the seminar. And then we very quickly learned after the second one that we need to do it the right way, which is have the talk first and then have the actual meal.
Yeah.
The other thing too that was really important for us, and I don't know if it happened with you, Don, generally your seminar cannot be more than 30 to 45 minutes. You don't want to have an hour or 2 or 3 hour seminars in general. Typically, especially when you're dealing with finances and complex stuff, we found that 30 to 45 minutes was really the maximum attention span of these folks. And it was good for us because we had to be able to figure out, how do we get the information that we want across in that short period of time? And in order to do that, we had to cut it back to the most compelling, most powerful information we have. The other thing too that I found really important is that in our seminars, and the purpose of the seminar, let's be clear, was to actually create clients and to sell stuff. However, we did not sell any products or services in our financial seminars. And I'll talk more about that later. But what we sold was, we would educate clients, we would disturb them, and then we would propose a couple different solutions. And in order to get those solutions and narrow their choices, they had to meet with a financial advisor. And that was critically important, because whenever somebody goes to a seminar, they have the feeling that they're going to get the hard sell. And so by not doing that and really focusing on educating clients, and through that education, disturbing them enough by creating case studies and examples and situations that they hadn't thought about, by creating that disturbing factor, we were then able to motivate them to want to learn more and to meet with an advisor. So I'd say that is really important. Try not to sell, or certainly don't hard sell in the seminar. Be more gentle, but educate with a purpose. And the purpose of education is not just to educate someone, it's to motivate them to want to learn more and to make a decision. The other thing too that I think we might want to share with folks is some of the tips and tricks that you might want to think about. Don mentioned a handful of really powerful ones.
Mhm,
The other things you might want to think about is either you or the person you hire to be the speaker needs to be a recognized authority in the topic.
mhm,
And so, someone like Don, who's written several books, I've written a couple books on financial planning. If you've written a couple books or you know someone that's written a couple books, that person is a recognized authority on that particular topic area. You want to leverage that authority and be
mhm,
able to use that to help drive people to your events or your seminars.
mhm,
The other thing you want to do, as Don was mentioning, is you want to be targeted. You want to be targeted in the information, not only the people that you invite to the seminar, but the information that you present has to be targeted and narrow. You can't be presenting everything about financial planning, for an example, in one seminar. In our seminars, we really focus in laser like focus on retirement income planning. What is
mhm,
it? Why does it matter to me that I understand this stuff? What happens if I don't do it correctly, and what happens if I do it right? And then,
mhm,
most importantly, how can we help you create a retirement income plan that will guarantee you income for life? That
mhm,
was kind of the magic formula that we used.
mhm.
Um, it worked incredibly well. So the other couple other just quick tips, and Don, I'd love to get your thoughts on this too, about disturbing clients and prospects to motivate them not only to attend, which is the invitation, but also when they're in the seminar, creating or presenting compelling information to not only educate but to disturb them. Why do you think that works? Number one, and number two, where and how do you actually transition from disturbing the client to actually presenting the next step opportunity, which meeting with you or having a second meeting or a personalized meeting to actually present the solutions? So let me throw it back to you, Don, to see what your thoughts are on how do you disturb people and why is that important?
Well, those are some terrific insights and observations, Scott. To pick up on that last question, I think people are already disturbed. They should be disturbed about what's going on. And the fact that the television, newspapers, the media does such a terrible job of educating people financially. You sort of in the media, you get the story of the day that everyone is talking about, whether it's a shooting or a trial or this or that. And it can be a sports story. That's great. We all love sports. But when it comes to disturbing them, I don't think of it exactly that way. I think a lot of people are asleep at the wheel. They're think about when you're doing long distance driving and you're planning to pull off the road in 15 or 20 minutes to have a rest stop, stretch your legs, get something to eat or drink, and you just kind of get hypnotized driving down that road, with the fences going by, the trees going by, and then you kind of wake up. You kind of you were asleep at the wheel and you realize you overshot. You were planning to stop in 20 minutes and an hour has gone by. And that's the way it is in people's financial lives. They just sort of wake up one day and they're 60 years old. They say, my goodness, I have not saved nearly enough for retirement. I had that little setback back there. I took some money out of my 401k. I didn't put enough in. I took too long to start. Uh, I rated my IRA. Things happen in life. Emergencies come up. People don't get started. They don't put in enough. And so by disturbing them, I think we just have to hold up a mirror and educate them and educate them about things like longevity. People are living longer than ever. You know, the lifespan has expanded tremendously due to advances in health. Now we've lost about 760,000 people due to coronavirus. We have some things that hopefully are going to be temporary, but aside from that, the lifespan gets longer and longer and longer. And your money, a lot of people are able, they're thinking about retiring at age 60 or 65. I know people in government work who are retiring in their early 50s. One of my good friends who's a fireman retired at age 43 with a full pension. His grandmother is alive. She's in her 90s. So there are a lot of people who are around the world who are watching us right now on this video. Folks, you are going to live to be in your 90s. Some of you can live to be 100 with medical breakthroughs, with organ transplants. They're working on artificial blood solutions to all these different diseases. Um, so you've got to be prepared for that. Is your money, do you have the funds to help you pay your bills as long as you live? That's the goal of financial advisors today, is to help you build that kind of a resilient portfolio. So people have to be awakened from the trance or the stupor that they're in, realize the situation that they're in. They have to be educated and empowered. And like you said, Scott, we're not selling them anything there. One of the things I like to do to reassure people is, at the start of these seminars, I say, folks, I hope you didn't bring your checkbook because you're not going to need it. I hope you didn't bring any credit cards because unless you had to pay for parking, you're not going to need it. And by the way, another tip is choose a venue with free parking. It's
Yeah.
amazing how cheap people are. I've had people, we sometimes call people up when we don't get enough folks showing up at the program. We say, why didn't you attend? You RSVP'd. Oh, I found out that at the Hilton, they charge $2 an hour for parking. I didn't want to pay that. And you look at the neighborhood the person lives in. They live in $1.5 million house. They drive a nice car. They cheap out on the parking. So try to choose a venue with free parking.
That's
Um,
critically important, by the way, because I have personal experience with that. No matter what financial seminar, I won't go unless they validate parking or else it has free parking, which is completely insane.
yeah,
But there's a lot of people like that. I remember doing seminars where people call me up. They're like, "If you don't validate parking, I'm not coming." I'm like, "All
yeah,
right, we'll validate parking."
yeah, exactly. Um, so to touch on a couple of the other points that you raised here, you said you want to have an authority do the program. Now, because I've worked with a lot of, just average advisors, good people out there, not everyone is an authority. However, you can make yourself into an authority. Um, Back on my back wall there, I have a bunch of diplomas and certificates and honors and things. Doesn't matter what they are, but I do have them, but not everyone has those. And I know that Scott has a bunch of those. Um, But folks, Scott's written books. I've written a bunch of books. Um, you can write a book, and it doesn't have to be a long book. One of my clients, actually two of my clients, they have self-published books that are between about 50 and 60 pages that I help them write. They're really it's like a long article. It's like a long monograph. And as long as you have a catchy title, you're offering value, you have some success stories, you can say, I am a published author. So that's another way of becoming the authority. If you have a credential, if you're, for example, in insurance, if you're a CLU, if you're a certified financial planner, that takes a lot of work just to become a CFP. You deserve to call yourself an expert. You deserve to call yourself an authority. And there's a whole alphabet soup of other credentials you can get in financial planning. Use those credentials. Talk about your years of experience. That's all you really need. But it amazes me and surprises me sometimes that people who are doing seminars, they forget to mention that.
Yeah, I
If
can.
you've Yeah.
I can give you one quick example of somebody
Mhm,
with no experience, no background, really no credibility becoming
mhm,
successful in seminar selling. And I go
mhm,
back to the beginning of my career when my brother and I were just starting in the financial planning business. We a bunch of hospitals were closing in Massachusetts, and we decided to become experts in the state pension plan
mhm,
and try to go out and give retirement help to these employees of the state hospitals.
mhm,
We didn't have any experience. We didn't have any credentials. We didn't have any skills. But what we did have is a lot of time. And so we went and
mhm,
we spent about a month or two becoming experts in that state pension plan and state retirement system. And we went out and we delivered the seminar.
mhm,
Those seminars that we delivered over the first couple months grew into a whole seminar program that we did for the Massachusetts Department of Public Health and other agencies, mental health agencies as well, when they were closing
mhm,
hospitals. And we got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of clients and it
Mhm.
literally enabled us to start our business. And so we didn't have any credentials and we didn't have any stuff to hang on the wall, but we
Mhm.
made ourselves into experts by spending some time and energy learning about some concepts and ideas that would be helpful to our target market. So anyone can do that.
Yeah.
You just have to spend the time.
That is a super example, Scott. And it's funny how with these companies that no one really knows what's in those retirement plans. They don't know how they're structured. They don't know how to do the rollovers. They're scared to death to advise people. This is how to do a rollover. Okay, George, you've been with the company for 30 years. George is departing service. He's retiring. He's getting his gold watch or whatever it is today. And but they're afraid of being sued. They don't have the training to do it. They barely understand how to do it themselves. And many of them, they're going to go to a financial planner to get advice on how to do their rollover from the company's plan, whether it's a pension or 401k to their own IRA or independent plan. So if you take the time, you can say you are an authority, and the companies, I've worked with advisors where the companies are happy. You make friends with someone in HR, and you can have one of the best allies of your career because, like I said, they're scared to death about giving advice. And when they have someone they can trust to say, go to Scott Magnaca, ask him about how to do this. He's helped 100 of our employees or 12 of our employees retire. He knows the plan inside out. He's memorized it. This is the best kind of business in the world where the company gives, like, it's like giving the good housekeeping seal of approval to you, and it just leads to a steady stream of business coming in through your door. One other topic that we've been discussing is the length of the seminar. And Scott found that with Fidelity, that 30 minutes to 45 minutes was a perfect length. It really depends on the audience and on you. I find that in many cases that is true, but I do have a number of successful clients who are doing 45-minute to 90-minute programs. As long as it's compelling, as long as it's fascinating. And when we do a 90-minute program, what we always do is we serve them some finger food. So you might tell the people at the restaurant, when the people come in, what I'd like you to do is have a glass of water and a dinner roll out on the table so they can eat a dinner roll, have a little pat of butter. That's pretty filling. I mean, some of those dinner rolls and a pat of butter, that's 450 calories, right there, and a glass of water. And as long as you have a compelling, fascinating presentation, the gentleman that I had dinner with last night, he's been a client of mine for about 12 years. Now he has 3 sets of seminars. And if you're really good at this, I want to let you know what's possible. You can charge money. The first program is always free, but you can charge money for your expertise. And that's what he does. So his first program, this is sophisticated seminar selling combined with webinar selling. His first program is a webinar that he does, and that's free. And in that program, he educates people and he closes them to attend a $1,500 2-day weekend program. And they go to that. He has a very high satisfaction rate. And in that program, he upsells people to a $40,000 1-year long coaching program. And his business last year brought in $23 million.
Wow.
After paying all of his expenses, all of his overhead and everything, he has one partner in the business. He and his partner each netted, this is after taxes, over $3 million each. So this shows you what is possible when you learn how to play this in the big leagues. You learn how to play the seminar selling game in the big leagues. It's really the potential is unlimited.
I want to give folks just two other quick examples to kind of put some meat on the bone, so to speak. One example of a seminar that we did, and I'll give you the title of the seminar. It was called
Mhm.
5 Golden Rules for Transitioning to Retirement. And I'll talk a little bit about why we came up with that title. But the idea was you want to, if you can, use numbers in the invitation of a seminar, whether it's a 3 or a 5 or a 7, just so people know that there's steps and or a sequence to what you're going to be presenting. And the reason we chose this was 5 was relatively simple. Everybody can keep track of 5 things. And golden rules, everybody understands what the golden rule is from religion. And so we were like 5 golden rules for transitioning to retirement. And who is the target audience? Well, honestly, the target audience is everybody who's transitioning from work to retirement needs to understand these 5 golden rules. And the message that we sent in the seminar invitation and in the seminar, and you guys might want to jot this down, was there are risks that you're unaware of that can ruin your retirement for you and your family if you don't plan for them. And so that was kind of the message there. And that's what goes to educating and disturbing, because there's a lot of things that people don't know when they're planning for retirement because they've never done it before. And so what we wanted to do was capitalize on that and say, you know what, there's certain risks out there. One of them Don mentioned, which is longevity risk, that if you're not aware of this and how it affects you and your family, you could be in a world of hurt during retirement. And then what I'll do is let me just share with you what the 5 rules, the 5 golden rules were for transitioning to retirement. And again, you don't have to use the same ones, but the concept was, number 1, you have to recognize why you need an income plan, because most people don't know what an income plan is. And an income plan is simply you've accumulated assets over the years and you've had a plan hopefully to do that, but now you need a plan to understand, how do I take those assets and make them last for the rest of my lifetime and my spouse's lifetime to accomplish the goals that I've set out, mostly your income goal. So that's rule number 1, recognize why you need an income plan. Rule number 2 is the risks you face in retirement income planning if you don't do it correctly. And I won't talk about what all the risks are, but a couple of them are asset allocation and stock market risk. What happens if you still stay at 75 or 80% equities when you're in retirement? What are the pros and cons of that? Longevity risk. What happens if you don't plan for living a long life for you and your spouse, as Don was mentioning earlier? So what is that risk? And there's a host of 2 or 3 other risks that are really critical that you understand and you make part of your income plan, because your income plan is designed to mitigate as many of these risks as you possibly can. The 3rd rule is aligning your resources and your expenses. And like Don was talking about earlier, you may be someone who is already successful and wealthy in retirement. And what you need to do, though, is figure out, all right, what are my resources? Number 1, what do I have in terms of assets? But more importantly, how much do I need in income? If I need $80,000 a year in income and I'm going to have $300,000 coming in guaranteed for the rest of my life, I'm in pretty good shape. Say, but what if you need $300,000 or you need $3 million in income every year and you're only getting $300,000 guaranteed every year? That potentially creates a big problem for you. And that's why everybody needs an income plan. Rule 4 is just customizing your income strategy, and that recognizes that everybody is different and that the income plan that I create for myself is going to be different than Don's income plan. Even if you have 2 twins and they have exactly the same amount of assets, there's going to be differences between each one of those identical twins' income plan, because they may or may not have spouses. The spouses may or may not have work. They may or may not have pensions. So there's a whole host of factors that you need to think about when you're doing income plan, and that's where the customization comes in. And finally, and most importantly, folks, you can do this by yourself. And this is what I would say to a prospect. You can do all this stuff, analyzing the risk, aligning your resources and expenses, or you can rely on somebody who's done this successfully for 5 or 10 or 20 years. That's your financial advisor. And most people, when they do income planning, they get professional help and they work with a qualified, skilled financial planner who understands income planning. And that's what professional help is all about. It'll save you time, save you energy, and ultimately save you a lot of money in the long run. And so those 5 rules are designed to basically create interest, disturb the client and motivate them, educate them, and most importantly, drive them to getting professional help with a financial advisor. And if I look over the years that we did that program at Fidelity, the amount of revenue that we brought in rollovers, in managed accounts, in mutual funds, annuities, income annuities, and deferred annuities, the number was billions and billions and billions of dollars. And it all resulted from this type of program, which was designed to educate and motivate clients to get an income plan.
Mhm.
So I just wanted to give people an example of something that worked and worked incredibly well. And it's
Mhm.
relatively easy to replicate because guess what?
Mhm.
Everybody needs an income plan. And all of
Mhm.
your clients, if you're a financial advisor, they're all going to need an income plan at some
Mhm.
point.
Mhm.
And if you can capitalize on that and market yourself and create a authority of you as the income planning guy in your local or woman in your local community, you can have tremendous success. So let me pause. Any thoughts, Don?
Wow, I was taking some notes there. That's, those are great things. I hope our viewers around the world are taking notes on that. I've worked in Australia, I've worked in Canada, I've done some work in Europe, and the name of the plan is different, but the goal is always the same. People are living longer around the world, and you have to make sure your money lasts as long as you do. So those are outstanding content ideas for what, as you call them, the 5 golden rules for transitioning into retirement. Um, there's a couple of other titles here I'd like to share with you just to trigger your imagination, and you can fill in the content because you do have to have a captivating title. And as Scott shared, numbers grab people's attention. You don't want to use too large of a number. You don't want to have this is a mistake a lot of politicians make. Our 20-point plan for getting the economy going, that's going to freak people out. It's going to bore them. It's going to overwhelm them. So I found that the numbers between 5 and 9 seem to have an almost magical power, that people feel like I can handle this. You don't want to say one or two, 1 or 2 ideas about retirement income planning, because people think, oh, I already have 1 or 2 ideas. I'm going to win the lottery is number one. And number two, I forgot. But, they think that's not enough. It's going to be skimpy, no need to go. So 5 to 9 is a good number. And you were mentioning golden rules. We get that from the Bible, but one of them didn't even have on my list that you just triggered in my mind is the 10 Commandments for the
Yep.
10 Commandments for creating a powerful income plan to make sure your money lasts as long as you do.
That's
And here,
fantastic because that I think what you're doing there, Don, is really great from a psychological perspective because you're leveraging something that's universally known, right? The
mhm,
Ten Commandments. Most everybody's heard about that. They may not be able to recite what they are, but they've heard of
mhm,
the idea.
yeah.
And so you're leveraging that 10 commandments to talk about the 10 commandments of successful financial planning or the 10 commandments of retirement income planning. That's an attention getting, catching phrase that
Mhm.
grabs people's attention.
It puts you in an authoritative position. You are issuing commandments in a friendly way. You always want to be friendly. One of the things we're going to be doing a future recording session you guys can look forward to, where we're going to talk about the psychology, the all important psychology of building trust and rapport, making friends, bonding with these people you meet. Sometimes almost from the first moment of contact, there are things you can do, ways you can use your body language, ways you can use your voice to make a friend. And the more they like you, the more they're going to want to do business with you. So here's a few other ideas. Um, how to create these are ideas for seminar topics. How to create a totally tax-free retirement income stream.
I like
You know,
that.
people want income in retirement. And what's better than tax-free income? And there are ways you can do this, for example, with IUL insurance, with indexed universal life insurance, or with regular universal life insurance, and with other products and services. Um, how to maximize your retirement income, or how to safely maximize your retirement income. Because some people have very simplistic plans of, I'm just going to uh, I've actually known people that their plan is so simplistic. They say something like, well, Donald, I've saved up $1 million. I'll just take out $100,000 a year. until it runs out. And then I'm going to go on government support, because I need $100,000 a year to pay my bills. And I have to tell them that's not a good plan. You need to meet with a financial advisor. That is not a good plan. Or they say, I'll take out $50,000 a year for 20 years. Here's another one. How to retire 5 years early. That's exciting. You can rent a mailing list. You can buy demographics. You can get lists of people. And by the way, you can get not just physical mailing lists, but you can get email lists of people. And if you want to target people in their early 50s, late 40s, early 50s, and let them know that you have some methods that they may be able to retire 5 years early. You can't offer guarantees, folks. So in these programs, if you are a financial advisor, if you're in insurance, it has to go through compliance. Compliance has a red pen that they really love to use. So you want to qualify your words by saying how you may be able to retire 5 or 10 years early. Or you can use phrases like how this may be possible. We have a lot of others. You can contact Scott, you can contact me. We have other ways. We've done a lot of work with compliance and compliance attorneys, compliance experts. So we know how to get things through compliance. Another one is how to minimize your taxes in retirement. I have a guy I'm working with. I have a new client who is a retired, I can't say too much about him. I want to protect his confidentiality, but he has a very substantial retirement income. And I was talking to him about doing a joint venture project on something. And he said, well, I want to wait until next year because I'm meeting with some tax experts. And he said, this year, I don't want to make any more money because, quote unquote, I can't take the tax hit. Folks, wouldn't you like to be in that position where you're making so much money that you turn down a great opportunity because you don't want to make any more money? You don't want to pay any more in taxes. And that's the position he's in. If he makes a little bit more, he's going to be pushed up into an even higher tax bracket. And his way of seeing it is it's just not worth it right now. So there are a lot of ways you can minimize people's taxes in retirement and their retirement income taxes through the smart harvesting of gains. Which assets do you sell first? If they have there's a lot of folks now, they have an IRA, they have a 401k, they have a pension plan, they have stocks they have stocks in the stock market and not in any plan. Which ones do you tap first to get maximum tax advantages?
Yeah,
You
most
have
people,
that. Yeah,
most people don't know any of that.
they
So,
don't.
yeah,
But you do, folks. The
right.
viewers of this program, you do, because you're tax experts. You have enough tax knowledge, and they are desperate for that knowledge. And CPAs are wonderful. Scott has worked with CPAs. I have worked with CPAs. I worked with one just earlier this year for several months. He's one of the guys. I helped him write a book that he's now promoting to build his practice. He's a combination CPA financial advisor. And one of the things that about CPAs, they're wonderful people, very smart people, hardworking people, but a lot of them are scorekeepers. They tell you every April 15th this is how much money you owe the IRS, or at the end of the year, or each quarter, this is how much you have to pay. But they're not necessarily the best people at future tax planning to minimize the tax bite. That's where your expertise is needed. Another title is How to Live the Retirement of Your Dreams. Folks, it's about more than just money. It's about more than dollars and cents. There's a human side to this. So if you can intelligently talk in a motivational way it's about the lifestyle. Folks, are you thinking about moving to another part of the country where the cost of living is lower? California, this last decade was the first decade in our history where we actually, no, this last year, I take it back, not the decade. The last year was the first year in the California history where we actually had a net loss of population. It was only about 1,000 people. We still had a huge number of people come in, but we actually had a few more people leave the state. And one of the reasons is because the taxation here, same thing with Scott State, it's outrageous. You
Right.
can lose 39% federal, 11% state. That's 50% off the top. So you're working for half the year for the government before you put a penny in your own pocket.
I think that actually you're bringing up a really interesting point, Don. And I maybe if I want to see if I can summarize what you just said in terms of
Mhm,
so if someone's trying to create a headline for a really good, compelling financial seminar, number one, you should, or think about, ask a question or make a bold statement in the headline, because I think everything you just did was one or the
mhm.
other, or maybe both,
Yeah,
asking a question and making a bold statement. So
exactly.
that's one aspect of it. The other thing is using numbers, like you said. I personally, I love the numbers 3 and 5 and 7. You like the
Mhm,
numbers 4 to 9, but keep the numbers manageable and make sure
mhm,
you actually deliver on. If you say 7 steps, you better have 7 different things
mhm,
in your seminar that you actually deliver on. The other thing is you want to promise a benefit in the call to action. After they go through the seminar and they learn those 3 things or 5 things or whatever, you want to have a call to action that says, okay, the next step is to meet with your financial advisor. We're going to go through these 7 steps and how they apply to you specifically with you and your wife. And then
mhm,
we're going to show you how to implement a plan that does A, B, C, and D. And
mhm,
so that's your call to action for the seminar.
mhm,
I'll just give a couple headlines from my world that I
mhm,
used.
mhm,
One of them was discovering the 7 strategies for a successful retirement.
mhm,
Now, why was that a really powerful seminar headline? Well, because everybody wants a successful retirement, number one, and it implies that there are 7 specific strategies that you need to follow to get there. And in the
mhm,
seminar, we told people what those 7 strategies were.
mhm,
Incredibly powerful seminar.
mhm,
The other one was the one I mentioned earlier, which is the 5 golden rules for retirement.
mhm,
Now, if you're a financial advisor, another one might be if you're trying to sell your capabilities as a financial advisor,
mhm,
how about why professional help matters and where
mhm,
self help goes wrong?
mhm,
Because what you're selling clients as a financial advisor or a
mhm,
tax advisor or an estate planning attorney,
mhm,
you name it, is you're selling the value of professional help and how the
mhm,
team of financial professionals can help this client succeed financially, not only to
mhm,
getting them to retirement, but through retirement and then on to their legacy for their kids and family and charitable endeavors as well.
mhm,
That's the purpose of having a professional help team. But
mhm,
often we don't really sell that in the financial planning business. So thinking about selling not just yourself, but the team of capabilities and experts that you have access to that you can bring to bear to help your clients. And one
mhm.
really good firm that does that is Creative Planning. I don't know, you're probably
Yeah.
familiar
Oh,
with
yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's their whole business model, which is it's one
Mhm,
stop shopping. We'll help
mhm,
you with your taxes, your estate planning, your retirement income. And I
mhm,
think I read somewhere that they just reached $200 billion in assets under management at
mhm,
Creative Planning.
mhm,
So it works. That model
mhm,
absolutely works.
mhm,
Uh, so those are a couple headlines that you might want to think about. The other one I wrote is one that you essentially said earlier, Don, which is how to live a worry-free retirement. And I just added with 3 simple steps. And
mhm,
so then you could say, everybody wants a worry-free retirement. Well, how do I do that? Well, there's 3 steps that you need to follow.
mhm,
So hopefully, for folks that are listening, they've been listening to some of these headlines and they now understand the process as to how to go about constructing some seminar titles and headlines, both for your invitation as well as your seminar, that can
mhm,
capture attention and really motivate people to want to attend and want to meet you and want to get
mhm,
educated by you.
mhm.
Do you have anything else you want to share on the topic of seminars, Don?
Yeah, let's do that as we wrap this up. The next session, folks, that we're going to record, it won't be today, but it'll be hopefully, if Scott's schedule permits, we'll be doing it next week. Will be on video marketing. We have so many powerful ideas to share with you about all the different ways you can build your practice, build your business with video marketing. Um, a couple more headlines, because this is really one of the hardest parts. I find that many financial advisors and insurance agents struggle with this. And by the way, I love the companies that employ us. There's some fantastic insurance companies out there, financial planning firms, but many of the uh, pre-written seminars that they have, the canned seminars, are just, I have to be honest here, folks, they
Terrible.
are incredibly boring, and they will even admit it, because their main concern is compliance. It's not being sued, not being controversial. And so, typical concepts for their seminars are things like ideas for retirement. And it's just so bland. I had one guy who mailed out 5,000 mailing pieces. They cost him about $1 each to have them printed, to rent the mailing list. He had two people sign up, and he called me and he says, should I do this program? And I said, it's really not worth your time to do it. And luckily he was able to get out of the venue. He hadn't, signed one of those contracts where you've got to pay for everything up front. Um, so it requires some creativity on your behalf. Here's another one, and I want to share with you share these with you with some caveats. But here's one that grabs people's attention. Where is the stock market headed? We've had a super bull run in the stock market. This has been one of the longest, strongest bull runs in stock market history. These bull runs always end. They always end. A giant redwood tree cannot grow up to the sky forever. Eventually it stops growing. So when they come to the program, what you want to tell them is no one really knows where the stock market's headed. And you can share some current economic predictions based upon what the top experts are saying, Mohammed Al-Arya and some of the other top experts. But what you can say, what you really need to do, folks, is you have to have a diversified, balanced portfolio that will profit no matter what the stock market is doing. We will have, there are defensive stocks that profit in certain economic times. There are cyclical stocks that profit during other times. There are staples, food stocks, for example. People always have to eat, that tend to do well over time. Banking stocks, you talk about the pros and the cons. And if you are talking about annuities, what you can share with them is that no one really knows. No one has a crystal ball as to where the stock market's going. And that's why you need to have a certain percentage of your money totally protected from every single stock market loss. And this is where equity indexed annuities come into play, and they can protect you. You can share in gains in the stock market without ever having to worry about losing money. The value of your portfolio can only go up. It can never go down. And that gets a lot of people very excited. You can have a title like How to Invest in Your Stock in the Stock Market Now. That would have some of the same content that I previously described. How to make more money and keep more of the money you make. How to make more money and keep more of the money you make. 7 retirement mistakes you must avoid. This is a sort of a title or a theme that Ken Fisher, the first person who became a legitimate billionaire as a financial advisor, he has a little booklet that he mails out to people called 7 Investment Mistakes to Avoid in Retirement. He changes the title a little bit year after year, but he's been using this booklet for over 20 years. It still pulls a huge number of respondents. And what I want to share with you as a psychologist is that many people are more motivated to avoid a mistake than they are to do the right thing. They're more motivated to avoid a loss for X number of dollars than to gain a benefit of X number of dollars. I'll give you a quick example of that, which is I could tell you that I need someone to help me address Christmas cards tonight. And I've got a big mailing list of Christmas cards, and we're going to stay up all night long. I'll make some strong coffee. We'll bring in some donuts and some pizza, and I will pay you $200 to stay up with me all night long and put these labels on Christmas cards and stuff the Christmas card in and seal it and put a stamp on. Do you want to do that? Most people would say, heck no, unless they want to pick my brain for free consulting advice. That would be a bargain because I'm more than that. I cost a lot more than that. But uh, so you're not going to stay up all night to help me stuff Christmas cards. But if I said, you know what, your house is going to be broken into tonight, and you know that old television set in the back bedroom, it's worth about $200. They're going to steal that. They're probably not going to steal anything else, but they're going to steal that TV. Would you stay up all night long to catch those thieves? I'll bet you would. So that's an example of how we can be more motivated to avoid a loss than to gain a benefit. And that's why these titles of how to avoid the 7 biggest retirement mistakes, how to avoid the 5 tax, uh, uh, another phrase I like to use is ticking time bombs. How to avoid the 5 ticking time bombs in your retirement portfolio. This is kinesthetic language. This is physical language. And so much of the language of finance and investing is head language. It's head talk. It's conceptual. It's not something you talk about an insurance policy. You can't see it. You can't feel it. You can't taste it. It's a piece of paper. It's an idea. It's a concept. Same thing with a mutual fund portfolio. But that's the secret here is you want to use words that are kinesthetic, that are physical, that get people's emotions going. And so when you use phrases like ticking time bomb, that's a powerful phrase. That's a colorful phrase. Well, folks, I hope that you have, Scott and I have really enjoyed spending our time with you here, sharing these powerful ideas and concepts. Contact us through LinkedIn, connect up to us through LinkedIn, and we'll be able to DM each other, direct mail each other. We're happy to answer your questions. Scott, any final thoughts?
No, I think you summarized it perfectly, and we're really excited to do this presentation today, and we plan more of them in the future. So thank you, Don, for your time, and thank you, everybody, for watching.